All right, so yeah, let's get into it. How are you guys doing? Just overall vibes, state of the world. You happy with it?
Loaded question, man. That's a loaded
Very loaded
question.
question. There's a lot of shit going on.
Yeah, that's a big one. I think that the sun's shining, so that's pretty cool. I enjoy that. Got a love a good day. Birds are chirping, bees are flying. That's all you can ask for, really, you know?
Yeah, birds and the bees. I don't know. I do feel like, the state of the world. We have these good old nightmare squares that have been
Oh,
especially worse lately, I feel. I don't know. Like, are you guys using Twitter?
it's bad. I
No,
don't really.
It's ruining me. It's like been like just like nightmare, 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 just all in my face. It's been real bad.
Yeah, it started to get like really, really overwhelming for me. Like, I very much struggled with like, being addicted to my phone and like trapped in doom scrolling for ages. So it was like,
Yeah.
I had to very actively push myself away from it because, like, as you say, it's just like nightmare, nightmare, nightmare. And like the thing as well that keeps getting me is like, brother, what? We're in August 2024,
Mm.
like 8 months just gone like that, and I was like, had a bit of a doom scroll the other day, and it was like some freaking meme popped up and was like, you're speed running your youth, and I was like, oh shit.
Oh shit.
it's
It hit
so
me,
true.
David. You're speed running your youth with reels. I'm like, oh, that's rough. That one got me hard. So
That's the moment you just put it down right there.
it was like straight away. I was like, "Yep, you're right." Lock the phone, put
Yeah,
it away.
that's why I avoid TikTok. Like my
Mm.
burning thing is never have TikTok because, like, yeah, I'll go on Instagram Reels and you look at the time and it's been 30 minutes and it feels like 2 minutes. It's like,
Yeah,
fuck,
no,
Big,
time flies.
I'm getting
big
too
time.
close to 30 now.
Dude, I know. And the other thing is like you see people joking about it a lot. Like
Hmm.
it's actually like, taking over our habits. Like your mate might be in a car accident, and, like you accidentally pull out your phone. Like this is a joke. It's like you open your phone, you go to Instagram, but like that genuinely happens. The amount of times where it's like I go on my phone to check the calendar, like shit, what am I supposed to be doing in an hour? It's like, oh, Jack Simioni's uploaded a fresh reel. I go check it out, and that's it. I'm gone for like 30 minutes.
Yeah, no. Once you open it, like you're held there, by design. It is interesting too, because it does feel like it definitely has helped like pacify people. It's just like one of the different ways we're kind of kept happy, kept complacent, just be like, oh, just scrolling, scrolling, scrolling. And it's really like when you step back from it, you're like, oh, that's horrifying. That's really horrifying.
It's
Big
true,
time. I
yeah.
mean,
What's that?
I'm saying my thumb's jacked at least.
Yeah. That's the thing, like people's attention spans. Like I remember back in the day, it used to be like the thing, like YouTube videos used to be like 10 minutes type thing.
Mm,
Now it's like people do content. You gotta like have the content in 15 seconds. That's how long people's attention span is now.
mm.
Oh, that's by far the worst. And it's
What's
like
it?
the
Oh,
thing we're
sorry.
seeing is we're seeing a lot of adults being induced with ADHD later in life as well because of the fact that the first time in human history, our attention needs to jump from like topic to topic so rapidly. Like we haven't had time to adapt to that. So we're all just becoming, you know, ADHD.
What's it like? Because like you guys are in a band, and the part of the game is, playing the social media game. You kind of have to be on social media to promote, or at least, that is the current narrative. Like, how are you guys able to like disconnect?
That's such a good question. That's such a good question though. I've only got Instagram. The one thing I wish is I wish you could do Instagram on PC where you could post. Or
Mm.
have a version of Instagram where all I can do is just post. Like, because that's what I get sucked into is Instagram. Like, I'll post some and then I'll go and I'll be like, oh, I wonder what's going on. Next minute, it's been like 3 hours getting sucked into it. Sorry, I'm getting really distracted. The dog's fucking licking my leg. But yeah, it's real hard. It's like, and plus you got the other thing too where you can constantly like, I do it. I've done this thing too as well. It's like kind of a separate thing where like I turn off the like count and that because like
Mm.
then you face the thing of comparing yourself to everyone, stuff like that. It's a nightmare situation.
Yeah, it's like that. Like with music as well. Like you're right, you have streaming counts, your monthly listeners, all of that too. It's really tough. Like you have metrics like just also just blasted into your brain pretty much immediately in real time. Hard to disconnect.
I was just gonna say, like, that's the worst part about all of social media is the fact that it's just showing comparisons in your face nonstop, and it's just like there is, as you say, a metric, and it's like we associate this value. This is your value. This whatever this metric is. It might be 100, might be 200, 300. It's like that's your value, and if you comparing yourself to other people, it's like everyone internalizes that, and it's just perpetuating a terrible mindset.
It reminds me a lot of like fucking like PvP games and shit like that, like Elder Scrolls and that. Like it literally is where it's like it's just pixels on a screen that's just a number. Like it doesn't necessarily like, especially for like Spotify listeners, I've seen bands that have like half the amount of listeners as us do full sold out headliners in America. Just like
Like I can't stress enough that at least in today's day and age, like I feel like you can't use numbers of likes, followers, streams, like those sorts of things can't really be considered like a metric for quote unquote success or anything like that, because nowadays it's so unbelievably easy to fabricate any of that it's like, why would you let yourself feel bad about something where someone could very easily click a button and then all of a sudden 1 million likes appears? Like, really?
No, it is really interesting. It feels like, I don't know, just like thinking about 100 years ago, even further. I mean, this is kind of the plot of like the Unabomber's manifesto, but like industrialization got us fucked up because now we have all these sort of like what is it, sort of like substitutes for what survival means, and we're very disconnected from what like life actually is, what's actually important. It used to be simpler times.
They started throwing caffeines down our throat, and then all of a sudden we all lost our afternoon naps. That's why we're all so grumpy now.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, it is actually kind of interesting because like I guess it's like sort of same like with this the sort of setup of society now and all these sort of proxies for what is happiness, what is value, like what is your worth. That disconnect's pretty tied into like what is it like this whole like slaughterhouse industry as well. It's interesting. It is really all interconnected. Oh, there's your dog.
Number one, happiness. Him. It's a lie. Don't buy the lie of happiness. That's not the goal. It's about contentment. My grandfather always says he feels bad for people who live their life to be happy, because that's not life. Life, that's just like this tiny little sliver of life just over here. It's a lie. Don't buy the happiness lie.
Don't buy the happiness. Yeah. I think like the best thing, like the thing I realized is you just day by day appreciate little things.
That's it.
In the
little
moment.
things that like, I don't know, just simple things. That's like the real shit that makes you happy.
It's like that going back to the question that you asked, though, it really is one of the hardest things, trying to balance a healthy social media use with this industry that we're in, because it's very much integrated. Like you have to do it. So to be aware of it, I think it was like Ed Sheeran that said something like, you really shouldn't be using a lot of this stuff unless it is for business, because it's like, what, 20, 30, 40% of the stuff that you see is just ads. It's not even stuff that you see as your friends. We're living in like one of the biggest social experiments ever. So do yourselves a favor, like try and distance yourself from social media as much as you can. Like the world out there is just as beautiful, really.
I'm pretty sure Ed Sheeran, I feel like I saw this on some interview with him. I'm pretty sure he just doesn't carry a phone around either. Like he's just using payphones and stuff. He's like completely disconnected.
I'm on the brink. I'm snap and get a dumb phone. Like give me the Nokia bricks back. I'm ready.
What's it like? I guess like sort of still in the realm of social media, because like your album, like Everyone's a Murder, it's August 30th. Hey, coming up right around the corner. But I feel like, and I don't know if this is, I don't quite know what this is about. Maybe we can speculate about this together. But I feel like the feedback from people just like scrolling through the comments has been more negative, and it's kind of like that. It's always a weird reaction to see when people get very like offended by like animal rights activists or just like that type of activism in general. It's like, oh well, now I'm gonna eat more bacon, or like you get kind of like that sort of like Reddit weird like kind of cringe response where people don't quite process it. But it feels like that response and sort of the negativity to your platform has been elevated with this cycle? Do you guys agree with that? How do you feel about it? Why do you think people respond to this type of stuff like this?
That's a good question. I don't really pay attention to it. In
That's
my
fair.
eyes, yeah, in my eyes, anyone commenting that, firstly, if they're really against it, they're boosting the algorithm, which pushes the message to more people. So it's kind of like a bit of a thing, but yeah. Um, I don't know why this time around. I mean, it's whatever. I guess the message definitely like is amplified to where like in the past, I remember Dane saying like people kind of misconstrued the lyrical content and all that,
Hmm.
and kind of like associated it to different things. Where this time, this album round, he wanted every single song to be like, no, you know what you're listening to. And I think it's just rubbed people the wrong way, really. Well, not rubbed them the wrong way, but I guess taken more notice to it, which is like, whatever. I mean,
It's also the point of it, right?
exactly. I mean, if you're getting offended to it, if you're getting offended by it, I mean, must be doing something right.
It is interesting because I do feel like this isn't just like in terms of like animal rights activism, but I feel like any other type of activism where if anyone says, this system is bad, people who partake in that system or benefit from that system, I guess it must be like a feeling of guilt, and then they start saying, no, it's actually you who's bad, that sort of like gut reaction where people get really uncomfortable being like, associated with a problematic system, and instead of facing it or really thinking about it, they have that sort of gut reaction to like push back, versus processing it. But as you say, that pushback does ultimately benefit the message, which is pretty interesting. But I have noticed, like in many other realms of activism, you do see that type of pushback.
Yeah, of course. It's like you'll see that in majority of social situations, like the person or the individual's got like a very explosive sort of emotional reaction. More or less likely, they tend to be either in the wrong or experiencing something like guilt, like you say.
Hmm.
And it's like people that get annoyed by being like, having reality shoved in their face. It's just like oppositional defiance disorder. It's that childish thing of like, oh, I was about to clean my room, but my parents just told me to clean my room, so now I'm not going to clean my room. You know what I mean? It's like,
I've always imagined that no matter who you are, when faced with the specifically in terms of animal rights, like the horrors of like just the meat industry, like you have to admit, like regardless of whether or not you do consume meat and partake in that system, that there is a lot of wrongdoing within that system. But it's interesting, people just completely shut it out, which again you see in other aspects of activism.
yeah, like that's what I really can't stand is like the full blown they're willing to partake in all of it, but then full blown not willing to look at any of it whatsoever. It's just like, man, how privileged can you be, really?
Yeah, exactly. It really does come from a place of privilege to just be able to shut that stuff out completely and be
100%.
just completely separated from it. That's
Yeah.
multiple aspects of life and all the wrongs that our nightmare squares blast in our face. Some people are like, I don't want to see this, and then they mute it out. Or I don't know. I've always personally felt like it's even if something makes you uncomfortable, or if you see something that's wrong in the world, like to be able to shut it out, it feels wrong. It feels like almost it's disrespectful to those suffering to be like, oh, I don't want to see this. Oh, this has nothing to do with me. I just feel like more people need to face the music personally and just like really be aware of what's going on in the world. Then again, it does seem based on the systems in power, it's kind of by design that we're sort of shut off, and there's this sort of uh, individualistic narrative that's pushed where it's like, oh, focus on your life, you're the one who matters, versus actually having empathy for other people.
Yeah, that's kind of like honestly, I feel like that's one of the sad parts, like one of the pitfalls of the Western society, right? Is like it's very
Mm.
individual. It's like the rise of the individual to power. Everything's about me, me, me. What can I achieve? Like, what have I got? But like, you look at other Eastern communities and it's like, yeah, it's the mindset is opposite. It's not so much but we and you, and like what you do for the community. And it's like, it's sad to see how many of us care so much about what it is like we as an individual achieve for ourselves. Like, fuck, man, you can do so much more for so many more people, more things, more. Like, there's so much more out there than just you. Imagine you times 7 billion. That's what's out there.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, and going back to the point, I think another reason why people kind of get worked up and kind of push it out too is what the marketing that they've lived and seen their whole life for anything that is an animal-based product is. Oh no, what the food I'm eating, that comes from the happy farms. That goes to the happy slaughterhouses. Those animals don't even realize, when in reality, doesn't matter if you go to a local butcher, they come from a farm. They all go to the same slaughterhouse where all the animals go. So no matter what, there's no angle to it where there is some lucky farm that you happen to get your meat from. It's all the same.
Mm.
Sorry, I was just gonna say the last thing was like the sort of be all end all that really finalized it for me and making the decision that yeah, this is what I want to do was like it didn't really matter which angle I broke it down from, it all led to the same answer. So, like take with that, do with it what you will, but at the end of the day it all comes down to how you feel with it really. But
I think that's completely fair, especially with like, there's now, organic, grass-fed, pasture raised, free roam. But like you say, it does all go to the same place, which is that's something
Yeah.
even I personally, I've never thought about that. That's a very good point. Like, it all ends in the same like terminal place.
Even stuff like free roam is like, it's not like, oh, here they're on a massive paddock. Free roam is they
A
can
bigger
maybe walk
cage.
around. Yeah, they can maybe walk around in a circle.
Yeah.
And all like the imagery and that, like, is to make people think, oh no, this happened. No, it's all the same. It's just, yeah, sure. They might get to walk around in a circle rather than that, but they're still standing in their shit all day.
Like, yeah, and then they have all the products with like, the personas of happy cows and stuff. And it's interesting like how, I mean, it is of course like tied to capitalism, consumerism.
oh
And
yeah.
that itself tied to individualism as well. But
Oh man, the capital, like the whole like the amount of things that has lies that have been sold to the general population because of what money has been able to buy. Like, there's two really big examples, right? There's one, like going to the idea of obviously we're talking about livestock and stuff like that at the moment. The whole bacon and eggs for breakfast and milk in your cereal, right? Like that is so big in the Western world, but you go to the Eastern world, like who the fuck is having like who's having like bacon for breakfast? Who's having fucking like milk and cereal for breakfast? It was basically like we figured out that protein was good for you. And then a bunch of people that ran all of these industries were lobbying with scientists to make papers, to write articles being like, okay, protein is the most important meal. So for you to be able to get more protein, you should be eating yada yada yada, leaving out the fact that, oh, okay, well, there's also like all of these inflammatory enzymes, all this other crap that's actually quite bad for you. But yet it's managed to convince the entire Western world that the most ideal breakfast is like a friggin' bacon and eggs or like, dairy milk in your cereal. That's
feel
like
horrible after eating that too.
yeah.
No, that's not a breakfast where you feel good after.
Not at all,
Huh.
man.
But it's like, oh, this is the standard. This is what breakfast is. Yeah. And it's
And the
it is
other
of course conflated with industry.
sorry, I was just finishing quickly. The other really big one was autism and vaccinations. It was completely debunked. It was
Yeah.
just because again, it was competing companies. One that made 3 vaccinations in one vaccination, and the other company that made 3 individuals. So this guy tried, and like it's just like the whole world ended up believing that vaccines gave you autism. So capitalism.
Do you guys have like an anti-vax family member who's always like in your face about it?
Yeah, I do, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's
Yeah,
kind of
there's
crazy.
always
I feel
one.
there's always one. No, I've got the one in my family has just sent me so many articles, and I'm just like, I always have to like go through debunk them, and it's just like, how do you read and believe this stuff? Like,
No, it's
but
hard,
no,
man.
no, it's crazy. No, there's some. some people are nuts, and that's just at the end of the day, it's just going to be how it is. Some people are nuts. It's not their fault. They still deserve just as much happiness as everyone else, but they are nuts.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, and it goes back to the social media thing. Like, it doesn't take long to get down an anti-vax rabbit hole of how to
Yeah.
cleanse heavy metals from your system and that.
That was like prime, like I think like pre-COVID, like YouTube with like the sort of alt-right conspiracy theory pipeline. That stuff was like very much promoted by that platform and other aspects of social media. Some people really went off the deep end.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember that period of YouTube just before COVID, and then COVID happened, and YouTube were like, anything conspiracy, nah.
Really, I
Yeah.
don't remember that.
Yeah, it used to
So
be
I
like
remember
fucking crazy. There'd be
be
like
like
a 4-hour documentary, and it'd be Sorry, what were you saying?
But yeah, no. Pre-COVID YouTube was crazy. That was like where like who's it? Like Ben Shapiro, Jordan Peterson, like Steven Crowder. That's where like all those guys started getting really big. And that wasn't because they were doing anything. That's just because YouTube was like promoting them like crazy. That was a weird time.
It was.
Jordan Peterson freaking appeared on my map. One day I had no idea who he was, and then all of a sudden, every website ever was throwing him in my face.
Yeah, where he's like crying about how he wants to like fuck his grandma and stuff, and you're like, what's happening? This is insane. He's always crying. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's always about weird things. It's about really weird things. You guys when so always bringing it back to the activism, but this is activism tied to your career. How has the level to which you guys are vocal about your cause, has that influenced like how you've been treated within the music industry by both peers and like people who are more corporate?
Good question. I don't think so.
Yeah, it's
I
weird.
think it probably is like more on the good side of things, where I guess people like a product that has some sort of authenticity, or I guess substance to it. I feel like, I'm not sure. I mean, maybe there's like massive fucking things in the industry saying fuck us or whatever, but I mean, no, I haven't heard anything.
That's nice. I mean, you guys are with Unique Leader still, right?
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, I feel like, just like based on like the people I've talked with, and just like interactions with people at Unique Leader, like they're chill. They're about the music. From what I can see, I don't know as much about how it is behind the scenes, but
Yeah, Jamie's very, very easy to deal with. Very like, I guess it's very, for us, well, independent to a label, it is the best label to go to, because
mm,
there's always like things you learn, and it's good to be somewhere where like James is pretty like open to helping, rather than all suits and that.
that was very nice. Like, yeah, where I'm based, I've run into like quite a few of a corporate crowd, and it's very weird to go to a metal show and then you get the people like shaking hands, being like hello, like meeting the bands on their label. It's a very, very different vibe from what I've gotten from like the people who are more like doing the groundwork, who are more in the scene.
Yeah, 100%. It's kind of like, I feel like, yeah, the more organic stuff like that kind of resonates with, I guess, what we're about to.
Yeah, people like authenticity. I feel people want something to believe in as well.
Mm.
No one knows what to believe in anymore.
So generally, like a lot of the pushback you receive and stuff online, no one ever takes it. No one ever actually like says it to you. Or you don't have that actually come in person. It's just keyboard warriors, pretty much.
In person, I am what? How many years have I been in the band, Nick? 5?
5 years or so. Yeah.
Yeah. In 5, 6 years, I've never had one person come up to me and either debate me or mention anything negative towards it. Never had a single person come up to me. I've never had, like, Dane had a beer thrown at him, but we reckon that's because he used the C word in America. But other than that, like, I don't think, like, what are you gonna do in person? Not like, threatened, but like people don't want a verbal altercation in person. I think it's just an online thing to get the baited, you know. I think what they really want as well is to do the whole like vegan baiting thing. But yeah.
Yeah, I'd say like in person, at least in like the music scene, the majority of the people in the music scene, like, pretty left-wing alternative people that have similar mindsets and ideals for the most part. But I also work in a hospital, and a
Oh,
lot of the people that work there are, they're older, and they have a very different opinion on, veganism and sort of the ideas that we work with. Like some of the stuff that you hear some people say is like, whoa, it's like you hear them say that. They're like, it's like coming from like some 65-year-old lady saying some shit about the way that I eat. I'm like, who the fuck? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? You know what I mean? So I think you will find that a lot of younger people, a lot of they'll either be more open minded, or they won't be cruel to you, things like that. But older people, older generations, it was very not a part of their generation to be eating
mhm.
vegan and things like that. So they're shocked by it, and they might treat you weird. But at the end of the day, like, bro, look at some of the stuff that was going on in there today that they were okay with. So don't listen to those people. Like, they don't know.
No, that's good. That's good to shut them out. Do you think? Because this is actually like a fear of mine. Because I worry. Because I feel like I'm pretty open-minded now. Like I like to think things through, but I worry because like you see this entire generation of like people who are older be completely like closed-minded. Like, do you think that's like an inevitable thing? Do you think we one day will be the, oh, this wouldn't happen back in my day? Like, what do you think that is? Is it the lead in the water? What's going on there?
Let
That's
them.
that's a good question. I've never thought of that before. I think generally, like, probably no. I think for us, we've grown up in a time where, like, yeah, I feel like we've grown up in a time where it's more the like choose your own thing kind of thing and like be open to it. Like, obviously, there's always going to be some people, but like, I think if you go back to way back, post World War II, I think people like it was a much more like straight and narrow type thinking.
Hmm.
But I feel like at the end of the day, we have this chat in 80 years. I don't know what I'll be like.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah,
probably be
I
more.
be all the memes playing through my head. Then that's probably just going to be it. All of the 9-hour doom scrolls.
Yeah, you just like zone out and you're just getting like flashed with all the TikToks you spend hours of your life seeing.
Like, I think, like, yeah, to a degree, probably fairly inevitable. Like, we're all going to reach a point where you will be closed-minded about some things.
Hmm.
They can't teach an old dog new tricks. But the other thing is as well, like, in the last 60 years, we've learned so much about our brains and how we can work with our brains that we can actually prolong our brain health. And one of the biggest things in terms of like neuroplasticity, so continuously growing and learning, is to do new things. Is to, if you want to keep your brain healthy and alive, just keep learning new things. Learn a language, learn music, like learn like new. Don't get caught up in a routine, because that will solidify your brain.
Mm. I guess in a sense that would probably be like one of the positive aspects of social media, the internet. There is some good amongst all the bad. Like there's a lot of resources. Well, you can teach yourself a lot of different things, and you're interconnected with the broader world. I do think that helps people sort of, at least with the younger generations, get outside of the mentality of just me, me, me. But then it's also could play with the other aspects that come with it that also do promote the me, me, me side of things. It is interesting. I don't know. Net positive, net negative. Who's to say, really? It
It's a
depends.
hard one.
Hmm.
They're always It's always going to both exist, good and bad, and there's going to be just as much of both of them. So it's up to us to choose which side of the coin we want to look at.
So to the grave as a project and as a platform is very focused on animal rights. Uh, and I think yeah, you always get the people who are like, oh, why aren't you focusing on this? Why aren't you focusing on this? Not that they care
Right.
about it, but it's more of like a gotcha type of thing.
So yeah, right. Well, I mean, like, the thing is, because like if you I think having focused activism is better, because if you go for more of like this general activist kind of approach, then that's when you get people starting to point fingers and they start calling you a performative or some crap like that.
Hmm.
It's like, if you're out there advocating for this issue, that issue, this issue, that issue, then it's like you will get inevitably people being like, well, what about this? Why aren't you talking about this? This really needs to be, have light brought to it. So I think with focused activism, the benefit is that people know that this is what you're active about. This is the message that you're trying to give light to. Yeah, you probably most likely support a very large number of other causes and things to fight for, but this is the one that I'm focusing on fighting for. And that at least, it's you're dedicated to that. It's the only thing you're working on, so you'll be able to achieve that goal faster. You're not going to cop abuse from the public. That's, at least in my view, the benefit of going for a more focused approach.
Yeah. Plus, there's also the fact that if you are talking about serious topics, it's good. Like, I always notice this. Say there's a thing happening, people kind of attached to it when it's popular, and then once it's not popular, they never go for it. That's like the big thing. I think is like being dedicated to one thing, every aspect of the one thing, rather than 5 things, and not being able to fully devote to every single aspect of it. If that makes sense? I think that's like another point of it too.
No, I would absolutely agree. I do think, it's good to be aware of like multiple causes, but to like really go all in on one, it deepens your own understanding as well versus, I mean, there's so much shit going on. There's so much wrong in the world. If you try to focus on everything, you don't really get that in-depth understanding of the different causes, the histories of the different causes that are going on right now in the world. Like, how are you supposed to understand like the entire history of like Armenia as well as, Palestine as well as Sudan and all that stuff. And it's good to like, be aware of that. But if you were to actually promote either one of those causes, to do it generally, there's so much going on. It's like, okay, boycott this, boycott this, boycott this, boycott this. It's unfocused.
Yeah, it's like stuff like that has been going on for like so unbelievably long that it really
Very
is
long.
so hard for anyone to just come in at this point after like 2,000 years worth of rivalry and being like, yeah, I got an understanding. Like this is this. It's the stuff. Some of the stuff that we're seeing in the world is just like some of the most unbelievably complicated stuff. Like and you're right. It's overwhelming, and it's like if you were to try and fight for all of it, like no one has the strength to be able to do that. But if we all work together and we focus on a topic as it, when you're a business, everyone's got their own job. Marty's sending emails, friggin' Jack's like setting up meetings. They are all working on different things, but it ends up achieving like the same goal, which we all know is like F money, right? Like,
A bit of a pivot, but like, so with To the Grave, how's your like individual fulfillment within the band, messaging wise, and then as well as just like musically, where do you like what sounds have you wanted to explore that you have been able to explore? What sounds have you not been able to explore that you would like to explore, either within To the Grave or in other future projects?
a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot. Like, I think, how do I word this? I think this is the first album where we kind of did a full 180. So for context, um, so basically, if we go back to the director's cuts, me, Dane, Matt, essentially the core songwriters. I write the songs, they kind of bounce back. So it was the same for this album, and we finished like the main songwriting in January, right after the American tour we did. And then we got Nick and Rainey to join. So basically, we came into like, I guess, the post writing of this album, and like the big thing we wanted to do was like, we always felt like there was constraints, and like, I guess there was a path we had to do in terms of the songs have to be this, 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 they need this, you can't do too much of this, which like we don't like. I guess our
Mm.
philosophy we kind of realized as well was like we don't like albums that sound the same, and like there's only a limited number of albums you get to do in your career. It's like I don't want to release fucking 5 epilogues. The world doesn't need another epilogue as it is. So like for us, I guess that was the thing. We'll like move on. So like I guess as the when's this coming out, by the way? Do you reckon?
This
After
interview?
after
I don't know. It's it can be whenever. Honestly, it could be.
yeah. 'Cause I was gonna say if you've like Burn Your Butcher and Dead Wrong, kind of like probably a good example of the rest of the album. Like the album's pretty diverse when it comes to like got early 2000s deathcore vibes in there, a lot of hardcore and stuff like that. I mean, I've kind of lost track of where this question was going, to be honest. I've started rambling. Nick,
Yeah. Fulfillment your goals musically. That's funny. I do like I know personally I also agree with like I feel like once it's always when bands really get into the flow of things. I think it's at the end of the day when once you've made it, it's a career. You gotta be fed. You gotta keep a roof over your head. So then I think bands get into the trap where they release albums where it's like the same song 10 times or like very similar. But like and I don't know, this is also kind of going to social media, but like kind of those clippable moments have really taken over. And I feel like at least for me personally, I've been listening to usually like throughout the day, like full albums start to finish, getting like the full message. I'm actually pivoting my channel to stop looking at singles and then just listening to albums in full when they release and really getting that full picture. I do find really diverse albums where each song brings something new. That's where it's at. That's where it's at. And I think you're able to accomplish more in terms of your like goals in your
100%.
lifespan as a musician.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I know what you mean. Like, I'm the same. I listen to full albums because, like, I like you think of what the artist did to be like, okay, this is kind of like the bridging section of the album. Here's this, and then I always love like the last song, which for the first time ever we've released as the first single, is kind of like I always think of it as like it's like the finale of the album. Like this is like the last thing they did, which in every case we've done has never been the last song we've recorded or written. Fun fact.
Mhm.
But I like to think that when listening.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, no, I do like one of my favorite things is when the last song of the album is just like probably like the most different from what preceded it. Because then it like actually like it just feels more definitive, more final. And it's just such a cool thing. Because like when you get the albums that are more samey, you get to the last song, it loops and you don't even notice.
Exactly. Like there's kind of like the song 7 to like 9 in an album is usually the ones where you're like they you know they're the ones that were kind of just added as filler.
Yeah, and that's like you need to keep someone's attention at that point, right? They've been listening to the music for like what 30 minutes at that point.
Exactly. That's why with what that part of the albums where it kind of like switches up, we have I think the first time I've ever done an instrumental songs on there. That's pretty
Ooh.
fun. If you like high impact, it's very similar to that, very like Deftonesy. It's like we kind of switch the vibe up again, and then it hits with Dead Wrong again to like, yeah, do that thing, make it interesting, like catch you off guard, like you're not expecting it.
You get a palate cleanser.
Exactly.
I like that.
What about like influences or I guess like I don't want you guys to like spoil the album too much. So if this is something that you've accomplished on this album, feel free to omit. But is there anything you'd like to blend with this? Or, yeah, I guess not even like the music you guys are writing, but just any genres in general that you guys would like to blend or just like see put together. Maybe it's not by your hands.
Yeah, I really want to see like a really solid mix of like dirty raw style and death metal. Like just dirty style or dirty techno, just something dirty. Just it needs to be dirty. Nothing's dirty enough anymore, you know?
Everything
Yeah,
is very
I know what
polished
you
now.
mean. Yeah, I know
Yeah,
what you mean. Whenever there's like collabs, it's always like the super clean hardstyle stuff, super
yeah, straight
dirty.
up.
And yeah, that'd actually be mad. Fucking anything mixed with death metal is just hectic, though. I reckon.
Mhm.
Like, what else? Fucking, that's a good question.
I don't know.
Um,
Like, I'm a weird one. I'm like kind of moved away from metal, like in the recent years. In the sense that I think I'm just like I don't know. I just listen to the same albums that I loved when I was younger. So a lot of the newer stuff that I'm finding is a lot of different genres and stuff. One thing like I've been listening to a lot of recently is like Serbian music because my mate
Oh shit.
he's he's a Serbian drummer, so he just shows me all this cracked out like it's the sickest like traditional like polka crap you could ever imagine. And it's like there's this duo. There's this one guy who's got like his hair here is shaved completely except for a mustache. He's got a mustache here, and then his belly hair is a mustache as
Oh
well.
my god.
And then after that, I was like, "That's it. I'm gonna be making Serbian music. I'm not Serbian, but I got to figure out."
Three mustaches and a trench coat.
That's it. That's it. So Serbian music is going to be a collab one day.
That'd be sick. Yeah, to the deathcore, to the grave, make it Serbian.
Still Serbian.
That's funny. I do find. So you guys feel like with like music you want to hear blended, it's older stuff or more modern stuff you want to hear combined? Because it sounds like it's like a kind of older sounds, bringing out like the best of like the old sounds, maybe making it new. Because for me personally, I do feel like there is a lot of crossover within metal. Like like what you're seeing with like black and deathcore. That's like three different like major genres coming together there. But it's very what's the right way to say it? I guess like the influences are very linear. Like
Yeah,
everyone sort of takes from like Dimmu Borgir, and then people are also taking from people who have taken from Dimmu versus looking
yeah,
back and taking from like maybe some of the original stuff Dimmu did and taking influence independently, or even looking at some of the contemporaries of Dimmu, like say Bathory or some of the other ones in the black metal scene. I feel like that's a kind of common trend. Like where you get like some crossover between the genres, but
definitely.
the way people draw influence, it's like not many people really go back to the roots, and there's a lot of cool stuff that can be blended that I feel like hasn't been blended yet.
Yeah,
yeah,
well,
I
that's
know.
what I feel Dead Wrong managed to do. Like they bringing back a lot of those old vibes that you're talking about. Like that, Decapitated is like Winds of Creation is a huge album I know for like Jack and I at least. So like trying to channel those energies, I think is the cool thing to do. Sorry, Jack, I completely cut you off.
No, I was gonna say, yeah. Like, well, speaking, yeah, it was like Capitated, fucking Dying Fetus, that like mid 2000s aborted sound where like people
Yeah.
don't love those albums, but I do.
Do people really not like those albums?
There's
Um,
weird people around here are weird.
yeah, they're
Wow.
like the period between I can't even remember. But, like, there's like a period in the mid 2000s where can't remember the album names, but like they're like the less popular albums, I guess.
Mhm. No, yeah, no, I know those. That's like how I got hooked. Actually, no, I got into Aborted through TerraVision, but then went through the back catalog and
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, this is gold.
Dude, I
That's
remember
interesting.
finding, I think it was Origin of Disease from the Global Flatline era. That's when I found Aborted. And then it was like, yeah, obviously they had like Nail Through a C Word on, on that. And I found the original of that song from the Engineering the Dead album. And I heard it. It was just like the grossest sounding thing. I'm like, this is incredible. And then you get across to like Gormageddon and stuff like that. Saw in the Carnage Done. Oh my days, dude. It's so dirty.
It's so
Yeah.
great. That's like one of the best sounds of just like in metal.
And then
Straight
there's
up.
their 2007 album, Slaughter and the Apparatus. No one ever talks about that album. That album is hectic.
I don't even think I've
I'm
listened
not
to
the
that.
only one who likes it. Huh?
What? Oh, wait. What's the album called?
Slaughter and Apparatus.
Oh, yes, yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah. like that's the mid 2000s ones I listen to that I like, but they're the ones that you can't even fucking remember them.
Yeah, no,
that is hilarious.
they've had a long career, and it's just gold all the way through. It's awesome.
Yeah, and I found out Ken the drummer also
Yeah.
writes a lot of the guitar too. Like he's a weapon. I think he wrote whatever, not Retro Gore. It must have been Terrorvision. I think he wrote majority of.
No, that album hooked me. I really love that one. Have you guys toured with Aborted before?
I personally am not. I was lucky enough to meet and hang out with them, but not tour.
I love Sven. He's so nice. What's
So
your like your like ideal tour lineup, like, goals? Or like what's the most, I don't know, I guess like there's like dream lineup, and then there's like the most fitting for To the Grave in your opinion.
Okay, right.
Let's see. To the Grave. Just
I
start
feel
with
like
that one.
yeah, you go.
Yeah. So To the Grave. So I'd probably go To the Grave. No order, obviously. Dying Fetus, because they're fucking hectic. Dying Fetus. I'd then go like a heavy hardcore band, like Last 10 Seconds, No Cure, like band like that. So you kind of got your fast Dying Fetus, got your heavy hardcore, and then like a good grindcore band, like the band like Candy or
Yeah.
something like that. And then yeah, an Eastern European slam band. Wonderful. What's the band that the drummer has the gold grills, Nick? That band.
I can pronounce it, but cephalotripsy or something like that. I know
Yeah,
exactly the one. I swear he's a rapper as well.
That's fun. That sounds like a diverse lineup. Like I'd love to see that one.
Yeah,
what
I
would you
think
go?
like the. Sorry, here you go.
Oh, yeah, it's a bit delayed. Sorry, I was gonna say, what would you pick?
For me, I reckon the most ideal. Nah, fuck it. We'll go for the dream. The dream would be like, all right, you go take it back 20 years though. You got to be back like 20 years in time. Have like number one will be up there. We'll get development big up the top. I'll take that. And
Ooh.
then we'll go under it just because I'll give development that. I'll let development have that. And then I reckon like, ah, I think just because of the love of it and the name was thrown around a lot, like early Suicide Silence, just because like the cleansing was brought up a lot when we were recording the vocals for this.
Yeah,
I think, and the final one,
but it's
I'll say,
Suicide. Oh, sorry. I was gonna say, but it's Suicide Silence playing Family Guy EP in full. Like that's the set.
yeah, that's it, 100% that. And then yeah, dying fetus or like aborted from that era too, but definitely
Nice.
development.
No, Devourment. Oh my god. I think, what was their last album, 2019? What was that called?
Seen Majesty or something like that, was it?
Yeah, that's how I found them, and I just like kept working backwards. That was so sick.
Oh
It's
man,
such a cool band.
what a
Obsidian
blessing too.
Majesty has fucking mad mix. The mix on that album's sick.
It's so
So
sick.
good.
That's like, although I guess it's like a lot of like the big like slam and grind influence bands, like just like amazing discographies, never miss, and they managed to like, transform their sound without a drop in quality at all. It's so beautiful.
I think like one of the best parts about that genre of music is like none of us when we listen to it for the first time, none of us listen to it like holy shit, that's the coolest thing ever. We're like we listen to it like what the fuck are these people
Yeah.
doing? Like it's the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life. And then here
And then
I am
we
like
go
10
back.
constructively. Yes.
No, it's
Uh,
funny because I remember hearing like I blast beats for the first time. I think it was like a Cannibal Corpse. No. It was like the old Sepultura. I think it was like their album Arise. And I was like, oh, these
uh,
suck. But let me listen some more. Oh no, they still
yeah,
suck. But let me. And then eventually I was like, no, this is fire.
straight up,
That
dude.
really got me into it.
It was like, yeah, that was very much my experience of first hearing blast beats. I was like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. And then like all of a sudden I'm like bopping my head to it's the best thing I've ever heard ever, you know?
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I feel like that the rawer side of metal has remained more secular from deathcore. Like no one's really mixing like grind and deathcore, and I feel like there's something there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, I feel like some earlier bands were kind of trying to, but no one really managed to do it amazingly, I feel. But I miss like the old sounds, man. Whatever happened to like really old, like the Job for a Cowboy type of scream sounds, you know? We need to bring some of that crap back.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I feel like all those influences, they're kind of like, now like that's not what like people are predominantly listening to. But that music's still there, and it's ripe for the picking for influence. I feel like it's a gold mine in the past. There's a lot of opportunity to make something like really new, really novel. And like I don't know, that's always been like my mindset with like making novel music. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. Like it's just look at the past, see what hasn't been combined yet, and it's just playing with Legos pretty much.
Bro, it's the thing that I
Exactly.
always talk about. You can't be completely original. It's impossible to create something completely original. Everything is influenced from the past. So stop limiting yourself and embrace it.
There's a ska song coming up on the next To the Grave record. You just confirmed it.
Gosh.
Yeah, for this, let's see. Let's talk about the tour. It's coming up. You guys start in the US September 5th, right?
Yes, we do. Nick doesn't though. He unfortunately couldn't
Oh,
get his visa in time. But
I
yeah,
know.
no,
he
that's
misses out.
that issue comes
Oh,
up so frequently.
so annoying, man. At first, it
Damn.
was like kind of calm. I was like, oh, it's all right, yeah. But like as it comes closer, I'm like, damn, that really sucks. So yeah, you're gonna have to have at least like 4 times more fun just for me.
It's gonna be 4 times worse. Yeah, it was really disappointing too because, for context, when I first started talking to Nick about joining, I was just hyping up fucking touring in America so much. I was like, "Fuck the RV,
No,
we're gonna have so much fun." And then it turns out he's like, "No, we can't. You can't get a
Bro,
visa."
no.
3 months, Jack was just like, you're gonna have so much fun. Just you wait, you're gonna shit bricks. You got no idea, and then it's just like, oh yeah, sorry, Nick. But it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Europe is all right. I'm sure US will be okay in the future.
Yeah,
But
you'll have to get it in a future run. Damn, yeah, hyped up. You got you excited, and now it's like, nope, sorry.
that's all right. Jack will have a great time there.
I will. I like America.
What are you looking forward to the most? And then I guess Nick, for you, that's in the indeterminate future.
Yeah. What the? There's too much. America is just like. Firstly, the big misconception of America is it's not as scary as the internet makes it to seem. Crazy. People are actually very, very nice there. That's probably the big one is how nice people are and how not forward, but like everyone's very chatty compared to Australia. Like
Oh.
if you go in an elevator in America, I've noticed people always talk to you, where in Australia it's kind of like trying to ignore. That's one. Like there's just a hospitality thing. And two, Chipotle. They're plant-based, vegan, fucking shit they got going on. That's fucking hectic. Costs an arm and a leg though, but it's fucking
No, I remember the old Chipotle used to be real cheap. That was nice, and then now everything's like way, way more expensive, which is devastating.
can't win them all.
Can't win them all.
Yeah.
And then,
I
yeah.
mean, I'm very excited to get over there one day. I think the thing that I would be most looking forward to is just being able to see United States with my own eyes. Because like growing up playing Tony Hawk games, all this sort of stuff, you know, everything is like set in America almost. So it was, to be able to go there and experience it firsthand, I reckon it's going to be pretty surreal. Like I think last time these guys they went to go see like the Breaking Bad house, for example, stuff like that. It's just like so much pop culture growing up was in America. So yeah, I reckon it'd be incredible to go see some of that.
So when we went to America last year, we spent 5 days in LA before the start of the tour. And so for context to this, me, Dane, Nick, a few other friends, we all used to play GTA roleplay. And we were in LA. It was just crazy because like that game is so detailed to the real city. Would be like, oh my god, there's that building where this happened, or like that's literally Mount Chiliad behind us. Like it was insane like that.
You just
Sorry,
start
Nick.
perceiving yourself in third person.
Literally, yeah.
Sick.
It's like, oh my god, remember when we rolled this dude down this alleyway or stuff like that?
Oh man. Yeah, one day I'll get to see that.
Damn, that's sad. I got so hyped up, but yeah, more opportunities in the future. It is really
That is
interesting here. I feel like there's pretty much like every type of climate. Like it's very peculiar. I guess like that's like the coolest part about touring it. You pretty much you get a big road trip, see a lot of different things.
Yeah, it's insane how much you see. And it's like you'll go over like a state line and it's just different accents. Different like it's just insane. Like there's always something to see if you look out the window.
It's crazy how much, like, I mean, like I said, I haven't seen it firsthand, but like from what you hear and see online at least, how much it changes within like such a short distance. Like I mean, like laws and regulations, just for example, change massively just across like a single border, and that to me is so, I don't know, so foreign, you know.
Yeah. More laws changing across state lines as time goes on too. That's a bit of a scary part, actually.
Yeah.
The only part that we have in Australia is like Jack saying milk differently to me.
What do you say, like milk?
Yeah, exactly like that actually.
Oh, there's no E in that.
But Jack doesn't do it. Jack is actually a good one. Like, he
Oh,
says milk.
What do I
you're
say?
one of the
Milk.
good ones.
I don't know. The Melburnians have like a weird E on there. A weird.
Nah,
I don't know how.
nah.
Milk.
So fucking, I get this all the time. Apparently, any word that has an E in it, I say is like an A. Like hey, hey,
Wait,
they.
yeah.
It's a Melburnian thing. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
But Jack, he's actually okay. That's like as far as it would go in Australia. We don't have massive differences in our accents.
Okay, it's because I don't know. I've never been to Australia, but I'm like, it's big on the map. It must be like also very, very different all around. But I don't. Is that the case? What's it like over there?
It's very. I don't know. It's kind of like a lot of the same, to be honest. I mean, look, no, that's a lie. It's very different between if you go to like all of the major cities. Like they've all kind of got their own personalities. Like the way I kind of describe the difference between Sydney, where I live, and Melbourne, where Jack lives, is kind of like Sydney's like a really pretty girl with a really ugly personality, and then like Melbourne's kind of like the opposite. That's how I'd kind of describe it. But in terms of like the people, I mean, there aren't crazy differences. It's just sort of differences in demeanor more than anything. Like
Mm.
people in Sydney are more busy and rushed for the most part, and you go to Melbourne, they're more like laid back. And then I got no idea what's going on in Perth because like no one on this side of the country ever goes over to Western Australia. So
Yeah,
sorry,
like
you love you.
if you go to Sydney, it's always like you go to the CBD and it's like dead quiet. Where Melbourne, there's like always shit happening.
Mm.
And then Brisbane, like it's just fucking bogans.
Yeah,
Brisbane's just all
Brisbane.
like fucking very like drink 4x gold, get on the piss at the pub type vibe.
Like you don't need to go to the pub to have fun in Brisbane. If you just walk up and down like the Valley Strip, like you'll have the time of your life just watching everyone else be munted off their face. And that's the kind of place Brisbane is.
Just like big people watching vibes.
Mm,
Oh,
pretty much.
absolutely. I love it.
Are cities in Australia are more spaced out, right?
Very much. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so then when you tour, it's a little trickier then.
Yeah, it's hard. I feel bad for Australian tours because, like I mentioned, Perth being in Western Australia, it's like it's easier for us to get to New Zealand, Indonesia, like the Philippines, than it is to get over to Western Australia. So you'll see that Perth doesn't really get a lot of shows from Australian bands. I think like really big international bands can make it out there. But like that's kind of the sad thing is it takes so long to get to Perth that it's not like financially possible for so many local bands in Australia. Like it takes me 16 hours to drive from Adelaide to Sydney, for example, and that's like, you know, halfway across the country, basically. So,
Man.
Do you know Perth? Do you know Perth is the most isolated capital city in the world?
I didn't know that actually.
Like isolated from any other like capital.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think land based, because like obviously you got like Hawaii and that's like its own thing, but like because I think it's 25 hours from Adelaide to Perth, and it's just yeah. But every other drive is like, if you do a tour, international bands come here and they'll come for a week, no days off, and you just drive 12-hour drive all the way around, and like the climate now is like in Australia, there's no all ages shows. It's all 18 plus, so there's no going to smaller towns or that. So internationals will come here and play literally 4 shows.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've noticed that. Like, yeah, all the tour dates that get announced are like so short for Australia.
Well, yeah, there's like, you know, a lot of the times they end up lumping New Zealand together in part of that like tour package to make it seem like bigger, badder, better, whatever. But you know, you come in here, you're playing like 4 cities for the most part, 5 if you're lucky and wealthy. But it's hard. It's hard at least for the major cities. Like there's, you know, scattered cities in between, like not cities but towns that you can go and play. Like Newcastle is another popular one that will kind of get played. That's because it's like in between sort of Brisbane and New South Wales, but it's still not really like.
It must be like pretty tricky then to like, I don't know, get kind of established as a band or as an individual in the scene if like it's so sparse and spread out. Like, I don't know, I feel like shows are like a big part of like getting traction and stuff, and if it seems like there's some pretty big financial limitations on that.
Yeah, I think like that's the hardest part. Jack's lucky because he skipped the whole local band part of the music industry, so he didn't have to do the whole grind. But very much it is like, as you say, it's really hard in Australia because of like the financial aspect. Like a local band can't just go and play in another city because it takes a huge amount of time and resources and money just to get there. For, you know, like what my band once was offered $50 to go play a show in Melbourne. We're in Sydney, and it's like, bro, like $50. That's like a meal for us. That's not going to cover travel or anything like that whatsoever. You know what I mean? So it's definitely hard, and it takes dedication to be able to make it in the Australian music industry. I think, and I think like that's why you see a lot of people international say like, oh, there's something different in the Australian waters. Well, I don't know. A lot of people say like, I think it's just because the ones that make it have to compete to get known overseas, maybe. But it's a battlefield. Yeah.
How did you end up into the grave?
Oh, it's a good story.
That's a good question. How did I end up into the grave? I don't know. I met Jack. He gave me a hug on a couch, and then that was it. And it was from a couple years later, I ended up joining. That was weird. I think like so I met them back when the global warming was being like that cycle was happening, and they were touring Australia with Volvadinia, and I was playing with one of my other bands at the time, and I was asked to play in Newcastle, that city I mentioned before. But after the show, they were like, "Oh yeah, you know, you're gonna come to the Sydney show." I live in Sydney, so I was there.
Oh, okay.
Then we put Sydney, and they were like, "All right, why don't you come? I'll come to the next show. Like, it'll be sick." I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I can come to the next one, but I gotta come back because I gotta get my car that I left on a main road." Anyway, so they ended up dragging me along for the whole rest of the tour. My car got towed, unfortunately. And then for some reason from there, they just kept on asking me to come hang out. So it was like I was there for the Miserable Summer shoot, like, you know, run merch for them quite a few times. And then I played Jack Simioni actually in Cut Off the Head. In fact, I reckon I did a pretty good job. No one even knew.
You played it?
I wasn't even in the video.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah. I wasn't in the band at that point. I just put on a balaclava and pretended to be Jack, so it worked out well.
Yeah. And then
So
I'll
you just,
follow on from there. Where were we? Would have been the start of this year, so 2024. I can't remember. I think we did we did America as a 4-piece, so only one guitarist. Cause like, yeah, we were kind of like, nah, fuck this, in our post breakup period, I guess you could say. Um, so like, nah, I won't look for anyone. We did the tour, and then at the end of it, we're kind of like mentioning like, oh, it's not the same. It feels
mm,
weird having like the other guitar come through the backings, and we kind of like were sitting there and thinking, and I like brought up to them. I was like, "What about we get Nick?" And the first thing they're like is, Nick used to be notorious for like being impossible to contact. Like, I mean, not like, oh, you might get a message in 5 hours. I mean, you might never get a response for 3 months.
oh my
So
god.
being like, yeah. The only thing is he has to be fucking active online every day so we can contact him. So yeah, it kind of went from there, and then we were in the process of finalizing the written songs for the album, and then uh, I think I recorded them, and then we're like, Nick also produces, like, makes electronic music, like hardstyle and that. So like, all right, I did it for director's cuts, and I don't want to do it again. You can do all the like post production stuff for this album. So he actually had like a massive hand in like all that stuff.
Oh shit, super sick.
Yeah, I'm grateful, massively grateful for the opportunity. Like I said, I've been mates with the guys for ages, so it's kind of like I don't know. It feels natural, you know. Like I've known them for a while. Working with them is great. So I don't know. I'm really freaking excited to be a part of it, and I think like the future is looking pretty damn exciting if you ask me. But oh man, like the lore behind all of this is it's deep, and I'm excited to watch it all unfold. Like the GTA RP stuff. I miss COVID.
No,
Yeah, I
that's
know.
super cool. It's like, so it sounds like you've been around like everyone for a while. So yeah, I guess you guys already knew like, okay, we vibe. It's funny
Mm.
how it kind of full circled back to disconnecting from your phone.
Yeah, straight up, dude.
Impossible to
Stay up.
contact. That's
Go meet your friends. Also, I'm sorry to everyone that I don't reply to. I love you. Know that.
the formal apology. It all comes out. Oh man, that's awesome. I think we've yeah, we're a bit over the hour mark. But this was great. Do you guys have anything like you wanna shout out before we end things?
Shout out to the grave. Thanks.
Yeah, right.
Shout out to everyone's murderer out August 30th through Unique Records, or Unique Leader Records.
Shout out.
Stream them and give us your fucking comments about how fucking we're falling off and we should sound like Epilogue. Also, art director's cuts, that's in the past, moving forward. Shout out to Sean here for having us on.
Yeah.
Fucking, we're gonna do this every single album we do.
Let's do it. I'm down. It's fun.
100%. Shout out to Chopper.
Shout out Chopper.
Uploading
Man, shout out
make
Jimmy.
shout yeah.
Hell yeah.
Do you have any Sean?
What?
Do you have any shout outs?
Do I have shouts? Shout out you guys. Thanks for coming on. No, this was hype. This was fun. It's a nice switch up for me. Just checking out music all the time. It's fun. It's fun to check out the new stuff, but it's it gets a little tiring.
No,
So,
it's
this
it
was
was
exciting. It's always fun. Good time to chat.
oh, yeah. You have good questions. You got questions that are
Yeah.
interesting, I feel like the last case so good stuff.
Oh, I appreciate that because I've only had one other interview and it was with Jack. So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Killing it. The questions are good.
oh yeah, awesome.